Any questions? And this is completely improv. I'd like to get to bed by 1, but I'll do whatever you want me to do. And yes, sir, over there in the microphone.
Hi.
Lights!
What?
Lights!
Lights! Camera! Action! I'm short, fat, and bald. I don't think I'm a movie star.
Alright, so I'm sure that if I look on Amazon.com, you probably have a review about it already. But have you read the Pentagon's new map, and do you think they're implementing some of the ideas in that book?
I have read the Pentagon's new map. That book should have remained an article.
Yeah, it is.
That is a well-meaning young man who has never read anything by anybody else, had some good ideas of his own. He has been overly influenced by Wall Street. I would place that book at about the 3rd rank.
Well, he does talk a lot about connecting the intelligence community back with the rest of the world.
Mostly what he talks about in that book is how fucked up the Pentagon process is, which is why I gave it an extra star. Okay. It's not a serious book. I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks.
The 9/11 Truth Movement has several schools. One is the Keene-Hamilton Commission. That's the official conspiracy theory. And that's a conspiracy theory that the first school accepts. The second one is the official conspiracy theory, but with some questions. The next one, sir, is the one that says we knew it was going to happen, and there was a breakdown. And I think that's what you're alluding to, that we're stupid, we're incompetent. But sir, the one that's the most extreme...
I'm not a sir, I'm a Robert.
Okay, Robert. Robert, the one that at first seems to be the most extreme, but upon investigation it's the one that's the least of all the conspiracy theories. It's the one that's the least outrageous. And that's the one I told you before that you were referring to, if you were leading up to this, that we're incompetent. Let it happen. Lie hop. Really is superseded upon those who really care about this tragedy, not only for the heartbreak within New York, but even in this moment, what's happening with Israel and Lebanon, is my hop made it happen on purpose. That there's no laptop computer in a cave in Afghanistan, and 18 people who may hate us like crazy, but simply do not have the ability with box cutters to bring down a building.
Where are you going with this?
I want to know which school. I want to know which school of thought you're in. Excuse me?
That's fine. Okay, stop right there. That's your question. There are several converging themes in my judgment. Converging theme number 1 is that the U.S. intelligence community has consistently, over the last 50 years, and certainly over the last 18 years, when I first started this dogfight, and 18 years ago I discovered that 80 to 90% of what we needed to know about the real world was not secret, not in English, not online, and not known to anybody in Washington, including the menopausal grandmothers in the Foreign Broadcasting Information Service. And I use that insult deliberately. Unfortunately, they're managed by young white boys in button-down collars that don't know fuck all about the world. Okay? So theme number 1 is we've shut out 80% of the information that we needed to know in order to understand the extremist Wahhabism thing that was being pushed out. Theme number 2 is that the Central Intelligence Agency has been politicized for all too long, to the point that they have been forbidden to talk to opposition groups in Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Iran, and elsewhere. Okay? So CIA is basically a castrated service that is limited to talking to foreign liaison, which hands them what they want them to know. All right? Dick Cheney was in charge of an exercise on 9/11. He was in charge of the entire U.S. government. He was using the Secret Service as his communication control channel. There is a strong body of literature that suggests that Dick Cheney decided that he wanted to let 9/11 happen. There is a strong body of literature that says that Dick Cheney very deliberately allowed George Bush to make an ass of himself by reading the book upside down and then moving him around the country. I guess I would sum this up by saying that right now the neoconservatives and the radical Islamic fundamentalists love each other because they are using the politics of fear to steal us blind.
But you didn't answer my question.
All right, what's your question? In one sentence.
Line up, let it happen still presupposes that people who've been discovered, they're not 19 hijackers. Half of them have been discovered. And any of them, even if they wanted to, they simply couldn't have.
I'm sorry.
I'm saying you're either lie-hop or my-hop, and lie-hop is very destructive.
Can someone explain this question to me?
Let it happen on purpose. You're telling me made it happen. Made it happen on purpose.
All right, next question.
I just asked for some humility because
All right,
Lebanon
next question.
wouldn't be.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Are you going to do a striptease? I'll go first. God, she's gorgeous. All right.
Well, thank you.
Good evening.
In any event, you were discussing the technological advancements going on within the CIA and what have you.
No, there are no technological advancements going on.
Okay, let me start over then again. The former CIA directors did focus less on raw or human intelligence for a time, ground intel, and they focused more on technological advancements, satellites,
Starting
what
with
have
Stansfield Turner.
Now, one can certainly see with Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and Iran what's going on there because there isn't much raw or human intelligence. My question for you is this. How would you address this issue that because during a certain point the CIA did focus on that and now we're missing people in the field for human intelligence, raw like that, how would you address that issue?
I actually have a press release on this topic. If you go to my website, you will see a table of contents from my website. I realized I have 30,000 pages on my website, and it didn't occur to me until this year after I had a very bad experience with Wikipedia that nobody is fucking reading below level 1. So I've created a sortable table of contents, and in there you'll find a press release called Revitalizing the Clandestine Service. Here's what it boils down to. In the 1950s and 60s, we had a clandestine service that looked like the United Nations. You would walk into the CIA, and we used to separate the analysts who we didn't trust. I mean, when I was a case officer and I was taken up to see the analysts in the 1980s, my chief of station said, don't tell them a fucking thing. Okay? This is how CIA works. Today, the entire intelligence community has been completely destroyed by Negroponte and this 1,000-person bullshit promotion above the Peter Principle. There is a very simple answer to clandestine intelligence, which is white boys don't know shit. You have to have multilateral, multinational stations in which the Americans provide the money and the processing technology and the management, and indigenous allies provide the street officers. Now the problem is that CIA is married to this concept of headquarters-to-headquarters liaison, which is basically code for headquarters assholes lying to headquarters assholes who don't know any difference. Okay? The DEA model is much better. The Drug Enforcement Administration takes officers from the individual countries and it puts them off on the side, and they bond as a band of brothers, and they do good shit together. And they keep their headquarters ignorant. This is the way to do it. All right? So if I were, and I've written several books on this. I mean, my first book on intelligence, spies, and secrecy in an open world has a chapter with 14 specific recommendations, which you can find for free on my website if you just flip through, refresh until you see the free chapter. This is real simple. We need a national collection agency that can actually get out on the street and get down and dirty. And Raul Goresh just said very clearly, we don't do diarrhea. Okay? It's easy to penetrate the Taliban. All you do is you take an 18 to 21-year-old, say, we'll give you $1 million in 10 years. Go fuck up your life for 10 years and come back when you've got contact. Okay? This is not a problem. But we don't have anybody in America that wants to go do that except for this kid that Lyndon, whatever, that made it to Afghanistan, but he wasn't a CIA case officer or even an agent. He was just a dumb shit that wanted to go kill people. You have to have a clandestine. Well, first off, let me start with open source agency. You can't be a serious spy unless you first know everything that can be known legally and ethically. I will tell you on the heads of my 3 children, the U.S. government doesn't know fuck all about 80% of the information they need to know in 183 languages they don't speak. Sorry about that. That's your fault. Because you're not telling your government that you expect them to actually be in touch with reality. What we have right now, present company accepted, is pinheads electing pinheads. Okay? And I don't know how we're going to change that. I don't have answers. There was a wonderful quote downstairs about questions are good, answers are arrogant. You're right, absolutely, I don't have answers. But one, you start with open source intelligence. So if I were DNI, I would have an open source agency. I'd fund it at $3 billion a year. And once I have everything that agency can give me, I would say to all the spies, I'd say, show me why you're worth a goddamn penny on top of open source. And I will guarantee you the National Reconnaissance Office, the National Security Agency, the Central Intelligence, and the National Geospatial Agency would all fail that test. 90% of what you need to know about the real world to make intelligent, strategic decisions is not secret. And we are just delusional. All right? You need a national processing agency. Intelligence is less than 10 to 15% of what you need to know. I want to turn NSA into a national processing agency where all the operational cables, all of the open source stuff, everything is part of this big mix. And the secrets are simply an add-on. You need a national analysis agency. And in fact, the problem with CIA is it only does secrets on our targets. Our agricultural policy, our commercial policy, our energy policy, our health and human services policy, every single part of government is totally fucked because they're bureaucracies with private sector mafias that have no interest in facts and reality. They only have an interest in how they can make a buck and screw the U.S. citizen. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Thanks. Aren't you gorgeous?
Yes, she is.
I'm sharing a room with my son, and I'm dysfunctional after 18 years of marriage. Next.
You had mentioned just now open source intelligence. In the past, you've told some great stories, and I'd love for you to tell them to this crowd as well. One that resonated with me, you mentioned, it's a perfect example of this phenomenon, the idea of tracking plagues before they happen by just looking at pharmacy receipts. And also
Grocery stores. Illegal immigrants use grocery stores.
And also, if you want to tell everyone the story about the map warehouse, that's always a jaw dropper, in my opinion.
Okay. You know, there is so much data out there, and I'm very, very interested as well as concerned about the way in which data is misused. I mean, you provide your information for one specific thing, and it ends up being accumulated by first choice or data or whatever. But the reality is there's a lot of good that can be done with aggregate data. I am not opposed to what NSA was trying to do with pattern analysis on phone calls, okay? What most people don't realize is that 80% of signals intelligence is pattern analysis, not content analysis. But to the example, we can predict outbreaks of influenza and so forth in illegal alien communities by watching what's being sold on the grocery store drug shelves, because illegal immigrants go to the grocery store rather than a pharmacy or a doctor. And I am just absolutely awed by Larry Brilliant and Google.org. Larry Brilliant is probably going to win a Nobel Prize one of these days. He's in the process of using a little bit of Google Cash, 1% of their annual revenue, to plus up the global public health intelligence network, and it has intelligence in it. And one of the things that Google is doing massive surveys of blogs and other things and looking for references, and they're credited with identifying SARS early on. So this is extremely important. As far as the map thing, I think you're referring to the Chinese burning. Condi Rice is as great a white girl as Bill Clinton is a black man. Okay? She is absolutely worthless. In fact, she's so worthless, she's worse than Madeleine Albright. Okay? Madeleine Albright deliberately repressed reports on terrorism because Madeleine Albright wanted to pretend that everything was on the right track. And we have bin Laden today because Madeleine Albright didn't have the balls to go after the terrorists, and Bill Clinton didn't have the balls to go after the terrorists when they blew up 2 embassies in the USS Cole and Kambar Towers, which is directly traced to Iran, according to the FBI director's memoirs. Thank you. Can someone teach me the Robert Steele drinking game?
Anything over a 6 on the crazy scale.
And does the crazy scale go to 10 or 15?
Do you think there's something especially wrong with the U.S. intelligence agency if when the Pentagon is attacked and there is only one camera that is capturing this footage, and there's no evidence of any plane or any sort?
Conspiracy theory. I am actually among those who is willing to believe that Donald Rumsfeld had a missile targeted into an unoccupied area of the Pentagon. Yes, I am. But I have no proof. But I will tell you that I see no plane parts and I see no bodies.
Well, what's going on in like the CIA when?
The CIA is not responsible for perimeter security for the Pentagon.
What about the FBI or any intelligence agency? How come they never investigated this?
Have you considered the possibility that Dick Cheney doesn't want them to?
Why? Because he actually orchestrated the attacks himself?
I don't know if he orchestrated the attacks. I believe it's something similar to John Kennedy's assassination, where defenses were let down for a very good reason. Yes, sir.
Okay, Robert, it's always fascinating to see you fooling the hacker community now in year 12.
Fooling the hacker community?
Yeah, I think it should be time with your charade. I mean, you can fool some flag waver and left gatekeeper script kiddies, but not realists. The fact is, 9/11 was an inside job. The scientific facts speak clearly for them. You only here for the only purpose to re-script the negligence theory.
I'm only here for the sex.
Your jokes don't let sex. Me too. I'm roasted. Steele. Okay, good. First of all, no planes hit any target. That we can prove from forensic evidence and visual evidence. Tomorrow we'll speak out on the visual evidence.
What's your source?
Source? Oh, TV. As usual,
He's holding a special session. He will be speaking tonight at 4 in the morning.
Yeah, no, I speak it tomorrow from 10 to 12. We can prove and we'll show that the broad. Yeah, you can come there and all the other scoops. And by the way, the book you're referring to was Mike Rupert, another scoop. Fact is, how long you want to continue with this charade, playing the big guy on negligence theories, while you exactly know that the scientific evidence alone speaks for an inside job. Controlled demolition building 1, 2, and 7. And then we have the TV fakery, which clearly proves that the live broadcast was contradicting each other and shows completely two different aircraft silhouettes. It's a CGI, computer-generated image. And if you make fun of it, don't worry about it, because this is the most...
Who the fuck are you to say I'm making fun of it? Let me just shut your fucking mouth. Let me tell you what's going on. Shut it. I will give you time to respond. Shut up.
Yes,
and I will speak for 2 minutes. Shut up.
My question.
Shut the fuck up and let me get your question.
Why is this evidence not in U.S. mainstream media while everything else is? Why is the evidence on 9/11 TV fakery not in U.S. mainstream media while the complete 9/11 truth movement is even on CNN?
Because we're stupid, moronic idiots that don't give a shit.
No, that's not true. They
All
won't.
right.
They
Shut
won't
up.
actually.
Let me give you a serious
They
answer.
said, oh, make better jokes instead of shutting me up. Why are you not here to say?
Tired. Not even wired There is a very credible literature, and obviously you haven't read all of my reviews.
I read everything on this statement.
You haven't read my reviews. Give the microphone to someone else. You're done. I will answer your question. You have not read my reviews. You have not read my reviews of the last 25 books on 9/11. I actually have a list. You know what a list is on Amazon? I have a list.
Books are all based on my research.
Do you know what a list on Amazon is?
I know that. I know you.
All right, then shut the fuck up and go read my list.
I know
because there is a
fucking
list.
damn
Shut up! There is a list on Amazon. There is a list on Amazon by Robert Steele on books that hold Dick Cheney accountable for 9/11. Okay? One of the things, just shut the fuck up, you're boring. There is definite positive evidence that requires an indictment of Dick Cheney and the 9/11 Commission, which had a lot of conflicts of interest. The 9/11 Commission has covered up all of the problems in the U.S. government. There is definite evidence suggesting an indictment, but not necessarily a conviction. That the FBI, for example, was running the Blind Sheik in New York as an asset. And that the FBI was, in fact, the one who created the car bomb for the World Trade Center in the first place. And there is definite evidence that the original plan to attack the World Trade Center was, in fact, a plan to have a nuclear catastrophe. But in a negotiation with Pakistan, and because the answers, there is certainly a great deal of information that suggests that we have been deceived by our government, that this has not been fully investigated, and that it requires additional investigation at a popular level. I hope that's a satisfactory answer for you. Next question.
Hi, Robert.
Robert, I want to say thank you.
Someone in charge, I need another pitcher of water.
Hey, give that man another six-pack.
Whatever this is.
Robert, I want to thank you for sharing your brilliance here.
It's not brilliance, it's attitude.
Well, it's attitude too, baby. The question I had was about 9/11, and on Building 7.
Good question.
There's a lot of people that said there's some controlled charges there, and then there's some people that actually were named as the people flying the airplanes actually came back to the embassies and said, hey, that wasn't me, here I am, I'm here.
Yeah.
Can you address, is there any sources?
Let me take that in two parts.
Okay, thank you.
Part number one is these were not all Saudis. These were people on Saudi passports. Part number two is a lot of these people were trained at U.S. military bases. Part number three is we are not at all certain that the people who are claimed to have been on the airplanes actually died on the airplanes. Part number four is that the CIA building, the Secret Service building, Secret Service, Dick Cheney, okay, there was no reason for World Trade Center building number 7 to collapse as it did.
Right.
There is in Crossing the Rubicon and other books that I have read, I do read, there is some suggestion that there was a Pentagon-installed controlling thing on these airplanes, and Boeing and others have developed capabilities to actually fly airplanes from here to Australia and back without pilots. There is some small evidence worthy of investigation, but not conclusion,
right,
that these airplanes were actually on override control from World Trade Center 7. And that the reason World Trade Center 7 was destroyed was to conceal all of this stuff. Thank you, sir. I don't know what the answer is. I do know that I don't trust my government.
Right. So as an intelligence officer, and what do you think?
There's a difference between intelligent and intelligence officer.
This is true. This is very true. But as an intelligence man, what's your opinion on the best way that we as people can have a good dialogue without getting too emotional about it, but bringing facts and not sarcastic innuendos? It's fun to do that just to have fun, you know, if we want to have a little fun. But in reality, to really get the truth rolling and find the accountabilities where we can. What's your best process in that? Thank you.
All right. I have said publicly, I'm not a big shot, you know, I'm a guy that just survives on a salary and tries to do this stuff, and you're actually my most receptive audience, and that's a sorry state of affairs. I have said publicly that we need 2 Truth and Reconciliation Commissions. We need a Truth and Reconciliation Commission on all the bad shit we've done overseas, including preventing Iran from having its elected people and the nationalization of its oil. We have created many of these problems ourselves. We have sown the dragon's teeth. We also need a Truth and Reconciliation Commission here at home. Wall Street has deliberately screwed the working poor and the middle class. And we seem to just take it, because in the past there was enough wealth to kind of keep us in beer and cigarettes and gasoline, and now that's all going away. It's the end of cheap oil. It's the end of free water. Disease is prevalent. There are a lot of things going on. I don't know what it's going to take. Outlook. Beside my doom and gloom slideshow, I'm actually optimistic. I think, and if you look at my website, oss.net, you've got a public daily brief. This public daily brief is free. The president's daily brief costs $60 billion a year, and he can't read it. Okay? So in that, when you click on that, you'll see a change on policy curve. I think we're right at the cusp. Okay, I've spent 18 years flatlining, and I think we're now about to go up. And we're not about to go up because of me. We're about to go up because of the internet, because of Google, because of Doug Engelbart's open hyper. There's a whole bunch of things that are about to start happening, and that's all good. So I've lost my train of thought. What was your question?
The question was...
Yeah, go back.
Yeah, the question was, how do we do it systematically and intelligently?
How do we do it systematically? Well, this group is well known for ignoring me. In 1994, I suggested that they create a server and that they start cataloging all flaws in all systems and giving the manufacturers 30 days and then posting them publicly. And there are a number of places that do that now. But I think this group specifically has lost the opportunity to be a major force in cleaning up